Hello, my name is Michael Roberts. I'm the William H. Lawrence Professor of Finance here at the Wharton School, and it is my pleasure to introduce you to the Wharton Financial Analytics Initiative, as well as one of its many projects, Project North Star. Briefly, the Wharton Financial Analytics Initiative, or WFA, is a new initiative started in 2020. Our mission, as indicated on the slide, is about improving financial decision-making in both professional and personal settings by integrating cutting-edge research with educational delivery and industry engagement. On the research front, we're integrating existing data sources and code bases to expand availability and ease replication for our faculty and student researchers while also promoting their research. On the education side, we're trying desperately to keep up with the enormous demand for financial analytics courses from students in all of the school's programs: undergraduate, MBA, doctoral, and executive. Finally, industry engagement is central to our mission and takes a number of forms, including teaching, in which industry experts and executives can come in and teach a class; case, or what I like to call data lab, development, in which we engage with companies to develop business case teaching materials where problems are solved or evaluated using data analytics; pro bono consulting-esque engagements in which students with faculty supervision are given the opportunity to help companies with their analytics-related challenges; and financial sponsorship of the initiative. Ultimately, through research and education, we aspire to improve the welfare of people, organizations, and society by bringing data analytics to bear on important financial issues. So, with that introduction, I'd like to spend a few minutes highlighting one of the projects underway at WFA, Project North Star. Most companies are, or should be, asking themselves the following questions. Where are we today relative to our competitors or peers? How do we compare? Where do we want to be 1, 5, or even 10 years from today? That is, what are our short, medium, and long-term financial goals? And finally, can we achieve these goals? And if so, how do we do it? In other words, what path or paths do we have to take to achieve our long-term goals? What is the probability of success? How do we know if our short-term goals are consistent with our long-term goals? And by extension, how do we know if we're on track towards those long-term goals? Project North Star marries over 100 years of financial accounting, financial market, and macroeconomic data with machine learning and AI techniques to provide answers to these questions. We start by identifying firms' peers and competitors by matching them along dozens of dimensions, including traditional markers such as industry and size, but also a host of operational and financial markers. It allows us to identify peers and rank those peers in terms of proximity along the different dimensions. With a peer set, we can benchmark the firm as it stands today along a number of dimensions, several of which are illustrated in the figure. We see our target company, Company X, indicated by the blue square, is broadly in the middle of the pack in terms of its revenue growth and a little on the low end in terms of its profitability. From a valuation standpoint, our target is valued quite richly with a relatively high enterprise value to sales ratio. When compared to the valuation model's predictions, it's likely that the company is overvalued based on the market's assessment of it and its peers. The next step is to examine more advanced competitors and peer firms, firms in the same industry that have been around longer, are larger, more successful, that are at a more advanced stage than what our target company, Company X, is currently at. So let's rewind the clock for those more advanced firms to the point at which their scale and growth look like our target company. In doing so, we can investigate how those firms evolved into what they are today, starting from the same point as our target company, and, in many ways, get a glimpse into the possible future paths Company X could follow. We see comparable sales growth from all three firms when they were operating at a similar scale to our target company 5 years ago. But all three were quite profitable in contrast to Company X. So when we look at valuation metrics over the 5-year horizon, we can see that the higher sales trajectory of Company 3, the green line, is reflected in a substantially higher valuation to Companies 1 and 2, despite the relatively lower operating margin. Company X is priced very similarly to the high growth peer, and so the question is whether our company, Company X, can maintain that high level of growth to support the rich valuation going forward, because the market appears to reward growth more than profitability, at least for firms that are still ramping up to scale. Of course, there are dozens of other metrics at which we can look, since we have complete P&Ls, balance sheets, and statement of cash flows, as well as equity and debt market information for these firms. Narrowing our focus even further, we can ask, how did the company that we would like to become or emulate get to where they are today from where we are today? In other words, building on the future peers analysis, can we identify a firm that embodies what we aspire to be, a Microsoft, an Apple, a Pfizer, and see how they evolved from the point in their history when they look similar to us today? Similar size, growth, profitability, etc. In other words, how did our North Star evolve across multiple dimensions such as sales growth and operating margin? Or Rule of 40 metric, which combines sales growth and operating margin. Cash to expense ratios to get a sense of burn rates. Days receivable and payable to understand trade credit and working capital management. We can map out the trajectories of our North Star firm from the point in time at which they most resembled our target firm to provide clear financial objectives around which we can benchmark and plan if we hope to achieve a similar scale and financial position. Finally, how do we get there? What trajectories do our KPIs have to take to achieve our long-term goals? And they need not be that of some existing company, but any goal that we set. For example, at its current revenue growth rate, it will take Company X 14 years to achieve the scale of its North Star. And with variation in that growth comes variation in the time to achieving that scale. Likewise, if Company X's goal for scale is different, the time and trade-offs differ in ways in which we can quantify. There are many exciting things happening at Wharton Financial Analytics. There are just as many ways to engage. For anyone interested, please don't hesitate to reach out and contact me via email or on LinkedIn. Thank you for your time.